Welcome, illumineers. It is time to take a rest from your quest and check in at the Lore Keeper's Inn. I'm your host, Katie. Now, another Disney Lorcana challenge has come and gone, but this one was extra special to me because I was finally able to attend in person. Now, it was myself and 1,825 other illumineers in the tournament that showed up to compete, but even more illuminaires were there to support their friends and family, compete in side events, provide support running the event through casting, judging, vending, and organizing the weekend. So there are lots of people there. And with me today are a few other attendees who enjoyed the weekend, each in their own way, which is one of the many reasons why I love this game, is because it's a hobby that can be enjoyed in so many different ways. And I'm sure every person that went this weekend had their own version of the Disney Lorcana Challenge Fort Worth. So first up, we have Kim, who you might recognize as Enchanted Kim, and is a member of the Love to Lore competitive team. She's not only a talented player, but she competes in style, bringing her art of Disney bounding and cosplay to the Lorcana community. So welcome, Kim.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm Enchanted Kim. You also probably know me from being the person who threw the Princess Meetup and Play Lorcana event recently. But yeah, super excited to be here and talk about DLC Fort Worth.
Yeah, you're sparkling in the flavor to the community of like, come on, guys, let's bring some style, which I'm very excited about. I think that's my favorite part, is how people bring flair their own way. Now we have a second member of the Love to Lore competitive team. It was a challenge to find people this weekend, but the good news is there was a shortcut to find this individual, because all you had to do was raise your hand and yell "judge" as loud as you wanted, and then that summoned them. So, welcome, Sarah.
Hey everyone, I'm Sarah. You'll probably know me from Instagram at Lorcana Librarian, or if you've been in the DLCs, you may have seen me in my super fancy judge outfit, running around doing deck checks, judging Top Cut.
Yeah, I did think it was fun that I just love the power of summoning people by yelling something. So I also think maybe we should institute, like in football, they have those little beanbag flags, and we should be able to just throw it into the aisle. I think that could be fun. Just ideas. But thank you for joining us.
I'm gonna say no thank you to getting
pinged
by being.
Okay, flares. Anyway, moving on. Also with me is a member of Sunflower Illumineers, a group that creates content showcasing how to play the game we know and love for beginners and veterans alike. Welcome, Raquel.
Hello. I'm Raquel. I'm also known as Lycos14. That's usually my competitive name, but yeah, it's great. Thanks for the invite to the lore, the innkeeper's place. So yeah. Yeah, definitely was a competitor at the event, so I'm excited to share that experience with you.
Yes, and you get a special thank you because you agreed to join last minute, which is something you have in common with our next guest, who also I was like, hey, does anyone want to be on the show? And you two were like, yes. And I'm like, wow, that's wonderful. So last but certainly not least, we have a member of the Incredibles, which was a local team to Dallas-Fort Worth. So they showed up and represented their home city and is here to represent their experience this weekend. Welcome.
Hello, I'm Alex. You can find me on pretty much any social media as Alex the Queer, because I like to be consistent. Yeah, it was a really cool experience for my first DLC, and honestly, like the biggest TCG tournament that I've competed at. So I'm excited to talk about it.
It was my first too. Was it all of you's first DLC?
No, it was my second one.
Okay, what was your first one?
My first one was Chicago.
Okay. And Sarah, were you Chicago? That was your first
Same
too?
as well, yes.
Okay. Now, so Sarah, I think I already said, I said, yeah, I'll judge. So is this your first time as a judge at the tournament?
No, I judged at Chicago as well.
Oh, cool. Okay. So I'm interested, did you two find any different vibes between the two? Because I think since this is so new, I imagine everyone is different in their own way. Were there any big differences that you saw?
Between Chicago and Fort Worth?
Yeah.
There were, I don't know, vibes is the word, but it was different, I guess.
Having twice as many people definitely changes the vibes.
That's a true point. Yeah.
Like going from 1,000 to 2,000 people was a big deal. However, going from 1,000 to 2,000 people, I also saw a lot of growth in terms of like the infrastructure and how everything was run. A lot of things were run a lot smoother. We saw a lot better interactions there. And then, but there's still room for growth there, which is exciting since this is such a new endeavor. And every time it just gets better and better.
That is exciting to see. It's so exciting to be part of like the beginning of something because not only, I mean, it's like the starting. So obviously everything just gets bigger and better every time. But it's one of those things where people will give ambient feedback to the internet and then you hear the Lorcana team be like, okay. And they take feedback and you're like, oh. So it's kind of cool to know that we do have a voice.
They're very dedicated to making a good experience for all players, like casual and very competitive players. So yeah, if you have feedback, definitely give it to them because they do want to hear from like everybody.
Well, the good news is the internet is never afraid to give feedback. But I will say so. Of us, I mean, did any of you guys make it to day 2? I mean, physically, we all made it to day 2.
Did we?
Didn't. Yeah, right. I changed. Me as a person, I changed a lot. But no, I didn't either. So spoiler alert. But one thing I wanted to talk about. So we all did the main event. Did any of you do side event? All right. So I'll start. Raquel, what side events did you partake in?
So I didn't do any side events day 1 because I did all 9 rounds day 1. And I got there too late on Friday to do any side events on Friday. But on Sunday, I did do the 8 a.m. constructed event. Slightly regret it because it was very early in the morning, but I did power through it. So that's the only side event I did do because then we had to leave shortly after.
Yeah, I only did a single pack rush because I needed a ticket. So I'm somebody where I know my limits and I know that like the fact that I'm here at all and doing a tournament, I was like, that's it. But I know some people did Friday. Did Kim or Alex, did you do any Friday events?
I did. I competed in the constructive on Friday at 4 p.m. And then also I competed on Sunday in the 8 a.m. constructive. But I didn't know what room that one was in, so I did get a game loss for my first game, which was cool. The Fridays went better because I knew where I was supposed to be. But yeah, I really liked the side events. Honestly, you were in a bigger space, but you still got to compete against some of the same faces. And I think like at least Friday for me was like figuring out what things I should or should not change going into like the main event on that next morning.
It's true. Yeah, it's kind of like a primer going into it. Finding places I was like, I'm going to go to the building with a tower. For people that didn't go, there's a very large tower, to which I was like, that's probably the right building. It wasn't. And that building smelled like cows, which later I learned is because there were cows in there. So just a fun fact. It was kind of in a rodeo convention center hybrid.
There was actually a horse convention going on at the same time because the person who like drove me to the event, he was like, oh, we can go this way. It'll be faster because that's how he felt. And we went and we ended up in what I was like, this is a rodeo. I sure hope they didn't do this to us. That would be negative.
Yeah, you said this is my first rodeo.
Yeah.
I do think it's fun because the 40-born folks, they were talking about how there was an anime convention going on in the same time. So I'm kind of jealous because, we shared with a rodeo and they got with the anime convention. Apparently, like Taylor got to really get into the anime culture. I don't think any of us got into the horse culture, but that was available if anybody needed to do any side events with horses.
I did get a video of a horse. As Kim and I got lost, same thing. Thinking, this is the building. It's not. Let's take a 1-mile walk in a circle until we get there.
Sarah, I know you mentioned that you this is your second time judging, and I did want to give kudos because, throughout the weekend, I'm like, this whole thing could not happen unless there are people who are like, you know what, I'm not going to play. I'm going to be a helper. And so obviously we have the obvious role of like casting was like those people were doing casting. And then, we have judges who are there just walking around all weekend answering questions. And so kudos to you because you allowed us to have fun. So what was something that made you want to be a judge and apply to be a judge? And what do you like about it?
So back when I started playing Lorcana, that was my goal, was to learn the game well enough and aspire to be a judge because it was a new game. I thought it was a good opportunity to get into that kind of program. Seeing people go through like Magic the Gathering, judge program and stuff like that was something that is highly competitive and hard to get into now. And just knowing like, hey, if I can get into this from the start, I'm huge into Disneyland. I have a magic key. I go pretty much once a month, and I really plugged into Disney culture, especially parks culture and like that side of like Instagram and whatnot. And so when Lorcana came around, I was really excited to be able to like play it in the park and have it be a part of that. And kind of like Disney bound as these characters and this card and do cosplay and things. But once I started playing, I like picked it up really quickly and just kind of learned it really quickly and became a super competitive player. So there was a span of time that I thought I would be playing in these DLCs, competing and not judging. So when I went to Chicago and judged Chicago, that was kind of like my tryout to be like, do I want to judge? Will I be judging and like hungering to be competing and like disappointed that I didn't do that? Or am I going to judge and just be like, this is the jam. This is all I want to do? Well, judging is the jam. It's all I want to do. I still play competitively at home. I'm still like training I want to bring home an Ursula this weekend. I'm hoping it happens. Yes. Getting some coaching this week from R&B on Blue Steel. So pray for me. I was going to bring Bucky, and I've decided just bring it home with Sapphire Steel. Go with what I know most, that I have the most hours and reps in. But wanting to just judge and be a part of the game and be able to make it sustainable. Okay. Do things by the book, teach
Yeah.
other people to do things by the book. And that way everyone will have a fair and good time. Right. And so that was my goal. Like, that's why I want to judge, is because I want this game accessible and I want it fair and I want people to be successful. So my piece when I'm walking around is not to like, ooh, we found this and you get a warning and wag your finger. No, it's to be a resource for the players so that they can successfully play this game and they can successfully have their questions answered and have a good play style or have a good time playing and we're a customer service piece kind of a thing. And so looking at that
Yeah.
role and knowing that that could be my positive part that I could, plug in was like super appealing.
Yeah, and it's an important role because I think you mentioned it's new. So there's no person on earth that's an expert on it other than the people who are actively trying to become an expert on it. So it's like a super important thing for the community to grow, to have people who are like, well, I will learn the rules because, every time a new card comes out, I'm like, I'll understand this when I'm older. And you're the ones that are there that, no, I'll understand it now for you. So
And it's nice to be a part of, because I'm here so early on in the inception of judging and Lorcana and these kind of things, to have like a say in how like the program grows and moves forward has been really, what would be the word? Fulfilling, I guess. Rewarding.
yeah,
Yeah. So just
yeah,
like,
you're part of
yeah,
it.
to like really take in people's, what they've noticed about the game and kind of like tailor it so we're like really creating a really fair and fun experience.
Definitely. And I think everyone interact with the judge this weekend. I think it's a good thing because obviously, it's a game. Games have rules and rules have calls. So I think I only had one interaction myself with a judge, and I was so afraid. So I'm somebody where I've never been to the principal. I don't get in trouble, and so like to hear someone yell "judge," first off, scary. It's scary. Like anytime you're interacting with someone and they yell a word and raise their hand, that can be a alarming interaction. But I think after the first time, then you're like, okay, this is normal. But and then the judge came over and yeah, no, they didn't say, all right, who messed up. It
Yeah.
was just, all right, what's going on?
Yeah. We're supposed to,
So
we approach calmly and, friendly, and we listen to both people and things like that. Um, it's abrupt, right? That you're playing and then all of a sudden it's like this shout and things like that. And I get that. But it's also like for us, there's 2,000 people and a lot of clamoring. We have to be able to quickly, and thoroughly assess these things and come to you quickly. So, because there's a timer.
I did think, yeah, I did think I was going to be arrested at one point because I was in a match and a judge they sat on either side of us. And I was like, are they going to arrest us? I just think they were bored, maybe. I don't know. I don't know how you guys decide where to hang out, but I assumed it was because I was going to be arrested. So can you please clarify how sometimes you guys decide where to stand?
If judges come to sit with you, it's because we're getting to the end of round. Was it near end of
Well, we
round?
were. Yeah.
So what happens is someone needs to be there so that when the timer stops, we can be like, your turn 0, your turn 1, and be
Okay.
able to like verify
Nice.
those things so that there's like no gray area. Also, having a judge present makes you not chit chat and actually finish your game.
Yeah. Well, there's 2, so I was like, I'm gonna get
So, because
escorted
we
into the back
really
rooms
need,
after this.
with 9 rounds, we can't have every round like push back, push back, push back. You know what I mean? Like we need that turnover. Otherwise, y'all will be there till midnight.
Why not? You know, we love the game. Welcome back, Kim. Did
Hey,
you have
I made
any?
it
You
back.
look and sound
I
so
know we
much
can hear
better.
you.
Oh,
Yeah, this is
awesome.
a better connection for you.
Yeah, I should be good. Awesome, perfect. I think I look clear in this video as
Yeah,
well.
it's very exciting. It's new and improved. You're back better than ever.
Perfect.
2.0.
My goals in life.
We lost you. You talked about a horse that I assume the FBI agent assigned to you cut your feed because they did not want to hear about that. But so
Yeah.
what was your side event with a horse?
There was no actual side event. It was just navigating through that theater with horses and people with spurs on their boots being like, what are you doing here? Because I was like dressed as like very Little Mermaid Disney bound with my like villains themed backpack, and they just were like, what are you doing here? And so I quickly maneuvered my way out of there. But Friday I got my badge and I was able to do, I think, 1 game of Pack Rush. Yeah, I did one just to kind of get my feels and like get the jitters out of like, okay, I'm playing with strangers that like I've never seen before because this isn't like my local league.
Uh-huh.
And then Sunday I did a game of Villainous, which was pretty interesting. I did 2 rounds because I won the round in my first pod. It was pretty fun because the first pod was all women who also have never played Villainous or like me haven't played Villainous since Lorcana came out. So we were all pretty clueless on what we were doing, but we figured it out. It was like a 2-hour game, which was pretty intense for that first game. And then I played another round of Villainous because, like I said, I won. So I moved on into the second round, and it was really tough, but I ended up losing. I was like 1 turn away from winning, but they got the win. But I still got a pretty decent amount of tickets, and yeah, those were the size events I did.
I love tickets. Have you assigned tickets to something? I should do that for chores because I will do it to get a ticket. It turns out that's all I need to motivate me to do anything in life.
And that's what we did for the princess party, was hand out tickets
Smart.
for playing with people. And it did great. Everyone was just like, I want tickets. This is like Chuck E. Cheese. And I was like, perfect. I'll keep doing this for all my future events.
I do think those side events are very cool. I think I'm so excited to see, because I know fan events are something that's coming up that nobody knows anything about. Somebody somewhere knows. Someone listening knows something, but not me. And I'm excited to see how that kind of morphs, because I think Disney people they're fun people. And obviously in the room, there's Disney. You can look, you can see these are Disney people, these are TCG people, these are Disney TCG people. Usually by what headwear they have, or Loungefly, Spirit Jersey. There's lots of Disney coding where you're like,
Shoulder buddies, new emos.
yes, yeah, or just pins where you can tell they're like, I see you're a pin collector of the non-Lorcana sort.
Roosevelt shirts.
So yeah, right, yeah, Roosevelt shirts and Spirit jerseys where you're just like, which I think is fun because it's like it's a good way to read. I think people, telegraphing to people, kind of like, I am willing to talk about my special interest if you are. So I'm hoping that's something, and that's I think I was surprised. So the next section that I wanted to kind of talk about is things that you were surprised about, and that can be good and bad, because this was everyone's first Fort Worth event, and you have second or first, and this is still the first year for everyone. I mean, I'll start with things I was happy that there were vendors, but I wish there was more like Disney vendors. I
Same.
thought it'd be fun to have,
Yeah.
I'll spend money on the silliest of things. So, what about you guys? Was there anything you're surprised that was there, or surprised that wasn't there, that you thought maybe should be there or should not be?
I was surprised at the very healthy and never relenting line to meet and play with the Lorcana game developers. I thought that was pretty
It's what the
cool.
people wanted.
It was unexpected. Like we had no, not no, but the line management wasn't, nobody like anticipated it basically. So that was interesting to see, like
Yeah.
the demand there, which I find really cool. And also what was surprising was seeing the demand for like the prize line at the end of the day. Like that was wild. I think this compared to Chicago, we fired a lot more side events, like a lot, a lot, a lot. And so I think a lot more people got tickets this time than usual, or not than usual, but like than expected. And I think that created a lot of demand at the end of the weekend for that prize wall.
Alex, you mentioned that privately, but you did mention that that was something that was kind of like, because I think we talked about before the show, this wasn't really advertised. I mean, obviously we knew the tickets and the prizes. That's one thing everybody knew about. But the fact that there were Lorcana creators there,
Yeah.
do you want to expand upon what you ran into in that
Yeah.
situation?
So I waited in line for an hour and 40 minutes. For like to be able to play with the devs. I didn't feel like it was gonna be that long because like looking at how many people were in front of me, I was like, oh, cool. 15 people are in front of me. That'll be chill. But because you get to choose if you want to play constructed format, with like a 60 card deck you built prior, if you wanted to pack rush with them, or whatever, it can take a little bit longer. But because of that experience of like the last day, a bunch of people got in the prize line expanded through like almost like intersecting what was the dev line. But people didn't know that the dev line existed, so they didn't know that they were intersecting a line. So when Sarah talks about like maybe the management could maybe improve a little bit, I thought I did a great job managing the lines personally. Because I
Yeah.
was like, oh, hey, you just came and stood on the other side of this, which this line is now like capped. You're going to want to go like over there. And they're like, you're not waiting for a prize? I'm like, well, I am waiting for a prize. Technically, I am. But just not probably the same one that you're wanting to wait for. But yeah, that was kind of surprising just because, like, I only like people to be in my space when I invite them to be there. And then there were people in my space that I did not want to be there. I was like, not for any reason other than just like I didn't know them. And also I've been in this line for an hour and 40 minutes. You can't have my spot. But
Which fair.
yeah. Overall, it was a cool experience. Like, I'm glad I only waited an hour and 40 minutes and not 2-3 hours for the experience, because some people did. But I think it's still worth it. Like, that was one of the experiences that I came home and told my partner, and she was like, I want to do that. And she's somebody who, like, she would go to a competitive Lorcana event. Like, she plays locally. She'll play in a set champs. But if I was just like, hey, I bought you a ticket to the DLC, go compete, she'd be like, no. So, hearing her kind of like just like secondhand being like, oh, I'd be interested in something like that was kind of cool.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to like, people only know about what they know about. So I think as the events mature, because I think at one point it was like halfway during Sunday, I realized there was like a QR code that led to a link tree that led to a bunch of information. I'm like, why didn't they hand me a piece of paper when I like got when I showed up? Because that would have been great to be like, hey, this is a link tree. This is where all and then so. But I mean, it's emerging. So I everything I say is taken with peace and love. But when you hear about that, then there's probably some people that maybe would have attended if they knew what some of those options were. So I think as we're talking about it, that's advertisements, but it's I think people like to interact with the devs. I didn't get to, but I did look at them and I nodded. This is for podcast format. I smiled and nodded. Circling back, Kim, you said so. This was your first one. Was there anything that surprised you as far as this being like the biggest tournament you've been to for Lorcana?
I think something that surprised me, which was more of a personal thing over the event, is just how like tight knit the Lorcana community is. Like, I wouldn't consider myself a big Lorcana influencer or like a really huge voice on the space, but I was really shocked that like people were coming up to me throughout the event being like, oh my gosh, you're Enchanted Kim, let's take a photo. And being able to like meet everyone else in person and they all just like recognize each other or
Yeah.
all that stuff. So that was really shocking to me, just like how tight the community is. But it was super awesome, and it was great because it just felt like I was just meeting a ton of friends this weekend. I think too, like what was mentioned earlier, I was kind of shocked that there weren't a lot of Disney stuff for sale in the vendors. I was kind of hoping there would be like more play mats and whatnot for sale, or like you said, Disney merch, lounge flies, just something. Because I feel like there are so many Disney fans there, and like as someone who loves to dress in Disney style when I go to these events, I was kind of hoping to have like exclusive Lorcana merch there to buy. So I don't know,
Yeah.
I felt like that was a missed opportunity there for them. Like I know they had the Lorcana challenge hats and t-shirts that like you could buy like with tickets, but it's like I'm not gonna earn enough tickets for these. And like if I do, it was gonna be for the promos.
Yeah, making you pick between like, hey, do you want a shirt or do you want a collectible item? And I'm like, please don't do this to me. I want them all. So I think, I mean, as you can see behind me, I am willing to spend money on very silly things. And I think most people, at least 50% of the people in the room, would spend money on quite literally anything with Lorcana on it. You know, pin,
Right,
plushie,
right.
Pins.
a mat case, anything.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, missed opportunity from a money making perspective, at least.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
that same vein, I was kind of like surprised how there were only like 8 vendors total. Yeah, because like
Right.
it's a pretty big convention center. I think the way I associated it to be set up and the way that it actually got set up was very different. Where you almost had to just like loop. I felt like maybe utilizing the outside hall space would have been better too. I don't know. I'm not the event staff. They probably have restrictions on this. Alex doesn't know. But I just like, you have a vendor who has 8 different enchanted cards and they're running a little low on Saturday because everybody's already bought them out. You're like, oh, I want to go find this specific enchanted. And you walk around and you're like, well, 0 for 8. Like it feels kind of sad. And also just like I was kind of hoping for those Lorcana pads, which
Oh, that was a thing.
there were a couple vendors that were selling their own pads, that were just basic pads. There was a vendor that was like giving out pads, and I took one of those. I use a boogie board, but it was just like, because what if I don't get the Lorcana pad? And then we talked to a judge later, and they were like, yeah, we're not doing those for other events because they became such a hot like item that people started to sell, and they would take multiple of them when they sign in. And I was like, man, that makes me sad. I didn't want to ride on it. I wouldn't have taken more than one.
Cowboy.
Oh my gosh, a
Ugh.
status symbol.
Right, and it was from a random event that wasn't DLC. It was one that was like, because I'm pretty close to the Seattle area, and so Ravensburger will occasionally do events. And there was one where this was again before DLC times, and so I picked one up because I was like, oh, this is cool. I'm like, I need a score pad for tournaments, and then I didn't realize how much of like a hot ticket item it was, and so now I'm like, I never want to use
Yeah.
this.
Frame it, put it in a shadow box.
And some of that, I mean, you think logistically could be solved by, you know, you get your badge and a pad and everybody gets one and, you know, but Disney collectors, you know, are a different breed of people and anything can become a hot item given the right situation, as evidenced by the fact that people are like, is there a crimp on that card? That's a very special card. So I don't know. Some of it I don't know how to avoid. And I'm sitting from a perspective, of course I can give advice, but I'm not running the tournament. So, um, but yeah, no, I agree that I want everything that has Lurkana on it, and it was hard because you either had to like earn it through, you know, never taking a break and getting as many tickets as possible, or pay somebody else a markup for their time that they spent trying to get that item, which doesn't feel great because, you know. Now, Raquel, did you run into anything that you like expect that?
Yeah, actually, for day 2, I actually had TVs set up to where we could watch the actual feature matches, which was not done, or at least I didn't see in Chicago being done. Like in Chicago, it was very much, it felt like, so side events on day 1 were done in like the basement, and then the main event was done in like this big hall in Chicago. So then it switched when day 2 happened. So the top 64 was pretty much like isolated from the rest of the convention. Whereas this one, you could just go across the hallway and see the people up at the stage, which I thought was really cool because they also had chairs. So it was like
Mhm.
actually watching, like, oh my gosh, I'm like watching a competitive event, like right here, and I'm gonna know who's gonna win. And they can't hear us, hopefully, because we're talking about what they're doing. But yeah,
And it was like golf where we're allowed to be like, very quiet.
that's
Oh my
exactly how it
gosh,
felt. Like, ooh,
Alex and
nice.
Sarah, remember Missy Enchanted was like, this is like my Super Bowl
Yeah.
when she got to watch the final, like, top 4.
Yeah, it was really cool. So I thought that was, I enjoyed that part.
Now, Sarah, did you get to judge on day 2 or any of like the final one? Can you say that? I
Yes.
don't know. We could see you, so I
Yes, I
guess that you're
can.
not like in like disguises.
I had the honor of being able to judge Top Cut. So,
Ooh, that's fun.
and I was the lead for that. So it's very, very, very honored to be trusted with that responsibility. Um, and I actually got to judge some of the feature matches on stage and whatnot. I mean, just wild times. I really am like, what is my life a lot? And to see people compete at that high level was really, really interesting. In Chicago, I did the same position, but I wasn't a team lead for it. I was just on the team that was doing Top Cut. So I got to judge Top Cut in the basement and in this environment. And I can tell you it was a lot more dynamic doing it this way. And, the players could see that people were watching them and they had an audience. Do you know what I mean? And that kind of it changed things a little bit for them. It made it more of a spectator sport, and it was pretty cool. Um, I really enjoyed that part, and I hope that they continue to do that where you're kind of like they're still isolated. They're like really far, so you can't have like intervention with the game and that kind of thing. But
Mhm.
just so that people can be there to see what's going on, I think makes a big difference, and I think it also helps with like integrity of the game because everybody can like see what's happening. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, it's such a good point you point out that I mean, day 2 players and day 1 is different vibes. And I think that was something that I was surprised. And I shouldn't be surprised because this is a competition where I mean, if you think about it, ten to $30,000 is on the line. We want to pretend like it's just merch, but to a lot of people there, it is money. It's their career. This is what they do. So that was a surprise
Yeah.
for me, is because I knew that it was a big competition, but it wasn't until that first moment that somebody was like, "Judge," and like that I like it was like, "Oh God, this is serious, and this isn't. It is for fun." Well, it's not for fun for some people. Like it's for fun, but in a way that's very different than the way I enjoy Lurkana. And I think when those worlds combine, um, I think it's everybody kind of being understanding that, in a room that big, there are very many experiences. So, for example, I had a moment where I was like, you get lore at the beginning of your turn for your land. I'll write it down. And I didn't write it down before I drew my card and I got judged. And I was like, oh my God. And so from that moment forward, I was like, you know, pay attention. And that's a good rule in any tournament is to pay attention. But it was definitely a moment where I realized that, it's kind of like going to an Olympic trial that allows anybody that can get in the pool and you're like swimming. You're like Michael Phelps was over there. And it's like stressful and exciting because you get to be right next to, Zach Bivens and you get to see people who are like good. Like Zach Bivens is the one that I'm like, yeah. Like if we can wear jerseys, that'd be the one that I'd be excited about.
Yes.
But
You're not alone.
yeah, right. He's the people's princess. Everybody
I
loves
have a
him.
story.
And
I have a story. Can I tell it, Kim?
sure, yeah. Well,
Oh,
I
I
already
gotta get
sure,
know.
for
permission. Hold
sure.
on. Can I tell it? Can I tell it? Okay, cool.
We can talk about split up.
All right. Kim here plays Steel Song. Yes? Everybody know? So Bibbins is known for Steel Song architecture and whatnot. So at the beginning of the weekend, Kim was like, oh, I hope to get a photo with Zach Bibbins this weekend. So I was like, okay, cool. Every time I saw him, I would text her and be like, Bibbins is here. Bibbins is here. I'm stuck in this back office because I was doing deck checks on day 1. And it was kind of like in this back where I had like a window out and onto the floor so I could like go in and out and like have the cards back there, whatnot. And so I'd see him like walk around through the window. I'd be like, Amber, 134, hashtag Bivens watch.
I really like that.
And then at one point, Kim's partner saw her pick up her phone and they said, I don't even have to ask you what you're doing. I know you're texting.
Well, because I had
she is
just
soft.
spotted Bivens.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big deal because, yeah, my husband's like, oh, yeah, I already saw Zach Bivens. I was like, what? And then he's like, oh, yeah, I shook his hand and we talked about you and your show. And I'm like, okay. So then I was like a little mad at my husband. And I was like, oh, Bivens, when I find you, Bivens. That's what it
Did you
came to. So at least it's a common experience chasing that poor man.
get to see Bibbin?
Oh, I stood there with a sticker while he was talking to somebody and was like, I have a sticker for you for coaching me. But no restraining order that I've received yet. But Kim, how did you?
Right. Same.
He's very
I
nice.
was-
He's the nicest person you could imagine. So
I would say I was very excited actually meeting him because he recognized me, and so I was just like internally I was like, oh my gosh, Zach Bivens knows who I am. I feel so cool. This is like the peak of my Lorcana career. But now I can calm down. I'm like, no, he's just a normal guy who's just very talented at the game. So hopefully, yeah, we don't get a like exactly like please don't let Enchanted Kim.
He's from Bivens.
yeah,
people.
he'll do a tell-all episode. Be like, the people who made me uncomfortable this weekend. Raquel and Alex, did you have any people that you're like, I see you on the internet and not want to meet you in person so bad?
I mean, yes. I mean, Zach Bivens is one of them, but I saw him once. I'm a very awkward person, and I was telling Kim and Sarah this multiple times. I won't go introduce myself to people. I just won't do it. I'll go, and then I will walk the other direction. And so, I sat next to Zan, and I watched a lot of Zan's videos, and this was in a side event on Sunday, that I showed up late for. So I was like sitting there, match one, and like the situation happened. I didn't have a chair. My opponent was like, well, now they're 9 minutes late. And I was like, I don't know what you want me to do about this chair. Like, I was like, we're waiting. I sit down, we're playing. I'm like, is this a good time to say hi? I chickened out, didn't do it. But then match two, I was sat next to him again. And I was like, okay, this has to be fate. I was like trying to talk through it, be like, you can't start by going, I watch your YouTube videos. Or I watch your YouTube videos when you used to post 3 a week and now you only post 1 every 1 week and a half. I was like, these are not things I want to say. How do I want to start? Hi, my name is Alex. Probably would have been a good start. I didn't do that because I was like, well, I'll wait till I'm done with this game. I didn't account for the fact that he might get done with his game first. And so he got done and he like started packing up his stuff and he's like leaving, talking, like he had played somebody he knew. And he was like, yeah, and at local, blah, blah, blah. And they're starting to walk off and I was like, hold on 1 second, to my opponent. Hey, I'm sorry to bother you. How do you pronounce your name? And that's what I said. And, was it...
That played it cool. I like that. You're like, who knows?
Did I introduce myself? No. Did I say hi? Also no. But he does pronounce his name Zan, so in case you were wondering, I got that information for you.
Yeah.
If you want an introduction.
And now you're
I'll help
delivering
you.
it to the people.
Exactly. You're welcome.
You're very informational.
So that was my experience.
On the ground reporting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's great. Yeah, and I don't think Lorcana is going to be the wow, these are all really cool, sociable people that are really good at making eye contact and not being weird. So, I mean, I think we were all doing our best. Poor Raquel came up to me and was like, hi. And I looked at, because like in between rounds, I'm just in a different plane of existence. And I went, hello. And then she was like, from the internet. I'm like, yes. And so I think we all had moments where it's like, we're indoor people, a lot of us. So we cannot be made to feel bad about awkwardness, or we can, but I won't allow it.
It's true. Okay, you're one of the only people I actually said hi to, because I am typically shy, so I'm not like Alex. I don't usually go up to people and say hi. I usually be like, oh, I know them from the internet. Keep walking. But my husband was like, hey, isn't that from podcast you listen to? And I was like, yeah. He's like, you should go say hi. I was like, okay, watching me.
And then I just looked at you like,
And then you just stared at me.
so
and
I'm glad
like,
I got it together. I got it together at the end. But Yeah, so, but you got a sticker. That was how honestly, carry a sticker, because then if someone talks to you and you don't know what to do and you feel weird, you're just like, here's a sticker.
That's good. I
And that
like
works.
that.
Yeah, although one time I did do that and someone said, maybe my kid will like it. I'll keep it back. Stickers are expensive.
I mean, that's why
mixed
it's also,
results.
I think, important to like make friends and have community, because like I definitely relied on my community while growing my community this weekend. Like I had several people who watched me compete in like other big tournaments for Lorcana that like came up to me. Again, we've discussed I'm very awkward when I talk to new people. They're like, oh yeah, Alex, and I saw you do this, and how did it go, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I get really overwhelmed really fast. And so like someone would be like, oh, here's this new person that you would like to meet that I know you want to meet that I already know. Or even like, I don't know, but I'm more extroverted than you, is really nice. It cushions it a little bit. I'm not as awkward as fast. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Just break the ice a little bit, and then from there, it's usually easy. As long as there's something to ease into that conversation. I do think it's fun that the judges, like, we all know that's like, hey, it's kind of like, I don't want to compare you to a service dog, but you know how like with service dogs, you can't, when they're working, you're not allowed to pet them or pretend like they're cute and fun. And so like with the judges, they're like, they're working. You cannot say hello or ask for a picture or anything. So that's how I felt with the judges. Be like, respectful nod. I will not acknowledge how excited I am that I'm standing near you.
It's literally the hardest part of my job. Because if you see me when I'm not in my judge uniform, I'll hug people for meeting you for the first time. We're hugging now. Hi, we're besties, and so I'll run up to anybody and say hi. So if you ever need shy folks, if you ever need an introduction to anybody, come to me. I will hook you up. I'm shameless. I'm like, yes, I will do introductions.
You'll have to come say hi
so
to me
I'll be in
first.
my judge uniform, and people are used to that from me. So they'll come running, Sarah, and I'll be like, hey.
And you're like,
Push them out of the way and shake their hands like, have a great competition. I'll see you later.
I'm a neutral entity.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm not in my human form right now. I'm sorry. And then when I'm out of uniform, I'm like, I'm in my human form. Let's hug and take photos. But it literally is the hardest part of being a judge, is having that line of fraternization.
Yeah. I saw Googly Glimmers and I was like,
yeah.
I mean, that's not their government name, but either way, I was excited.
And I was 8 years old when I realized my missed opportunity to get a googly eye card from him.
It's so hard. You don't know. Yeah, like one person I was talking to him, I was like, oh, here's your sticker. And then he was like, here's my sticker. I'm like, you're Travers? God bless America.
Yes.
I cannot, because half people don't use their picture online. So, or they do, and it's a video.
So it's like
so
a
it's just
tiny
hard because
little
the height.
face in the corner. You don't know what that is, right?
We all had some opportunities that we probably made awkward. And I think that's something we can all agree on. That some people had to endure my very terrible side hug because they're like, I'm going to hug you. I'm like, well, I don't like that, so I'll do that.
No. I fist bumped you. I hope that was okay.
No, that's perfect because, I'm just hugging's a lot. And it's not that, I think it's bad. It's just, I don't think I'm good at it. I'm not ready. And so, if someone went to hug me, I'm like, and they're probably like, I regret that. It's kind of like when you shake someone's hand and it's, weak. That's probably how they felt hugging me. Is like, I feel worse now somehow. That hug made me feel a little worse.
I actually worked on staff with a person for 3 straight days, walking 10 miles a day alongside this person. Okay, a lot of time spent with them. And then we had our judges dinner on Sunday, and I'm having conversation with them, and it's so pleasant. And they stand up, and on their way out, they hand me a card, and it's a flounder card with a ready set ink stamp on it. And it was that moment that I realized that it was ready set ink. And I was like, and he's like, it's so great to see you. I'm so glad that we got to spend time together.
And that's the hard part too, is when they recognize you first and then you're just like,
exactly. I was like,
I'm just,
yeah. But yeah, they were just like, I was too intimidated to say anything sooner because you're this person. And I was just like, well, always say hi to me. I'm nobody. Trust me. I'm just here hanging out, building community, judging Lorcana. I'm not like a superhero. So please say hi.
Have the same thing happen with Ready Set Inc. where it was the end of day 1 and they were walking out and talking to someone, and I just started talking to them, and then they're like, oh, I have their friend was talking to me, And they're like, okay, well, I gotta go because like I need to head out with this guy, Ready Set Inc. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're Ready Set Inc. Like to this guy. And I was like, we've been friends on like TikTok and Instagram for a while. And they're like, oh my gosh, it's you. And like then yeah, hands me the flounder card that's embossed, and I was like so excited.
Yeah.
Surreal.
So lesson learned, say hello. And then you also might be saying hello to people you didn't know that you were excited to say hello to. You never know. So regardless, I don't know. It's going to be awkward either way. So
Yeah, just ask them how to pronounce their
lean
name, and
into it.
then
Yeah, that's a good way to, you should just do this to anyone. Be like, hey, how do you pronounce your name? Don't ask.
Yeah.
Joe. It's Joe. This is goofy.
Yeah. Interesting. Is that the Icelandic pronunciation of Joe? So I'm glad we all had those moments. I think it was very intentional, the people that I invited on this, because, I think, if you look around the room, there were a very predominant amount of men that I think that one could say. But I was pleasantly surprised that there were, so I did Magic briefly. And I one time walked into a Grand Prix, which is like a challenge. And I literally walked in and was like, nope. And then I didn't play any games that day just because I was so intimidated by just the visuals of it. Of just being like, there's not a single person. I saw like one other woman and possibly she was playing. I don't know. I was happy about that. Were you guys pleasantly surprised by the amount of like women, non-binary people that were
I
there?
was excited. It was a very good sign when the first round, the majority of people at my table were women, and we all, like, my competitor too was a woman, and we were all like, I hope it stays like this because, like, the vibes here are great. And, like, we all started complimenting, like, our play mats and deck boxes and being like, oh my gosh, I love your outfit because some of the people at the table were, like, Disney bounding as well. And I was like, I love this energy, and I was glad that for the most part, like, that energy was kept up throughout the day as well. So that was great.
Yeah, I think that made it feel, just running into people who say, I like your hat. That can go so far. I mean, my goodness, like just having someone be like, I like your earrings, I like your hat. Like, my goodness. So I think that's my advice is just throw out compliments like confetti and that'll go 1,000 miles. Because, I think all of us had incidents where, somebody maybe talked to you in a way where you're like, it's not super appreciated. But I think it was that was the exception, not the rule. I think I only had a couple times where I was like, that's not how another human should probably talk to another human. But I think that's to be expected in a room of 2,000 people. There's going to be 2,000 different 1,000 in a room. So overall, I was pretty pleased with how things went. I think it's just my unsolicited advice to anybody that's like, how could I do better as a community member is, approach everything with curiosity. Before you yell judge, say, I do have a question. I shall call a judge because, it's a human interaction. And usually if you treat a human interaction that way, they end up well. But any of you guys have any things where you're like, I gotta get thoughts off my chest. I mean, we can always edit it out if it's highly controversial, but or things where you think that would be good for the community to be aware of.
One thing I did want to mention though about what we were talking about, but gender, judging both Chicago and Texas, a lot representation in Texas than I saw in Chicago. So the fire's growing.
And I think it's because, if you see somebody that looks like you playing, you go, oh, like, I think it's that kind of like building a ladder, building a community where you kind of, the more people you see enjoy it, the more people you're like, well, I can enjoy it. And so I think that's important to talk about our experiences.
Yeah. To have a female make it to top 64 for the first time.
It's very exciting.
So, yeah.
What deck what were they running? I have the things pulled up. That's our last thing.
Yeah, Judy. I think she was near, yeah. Things that went poorly that I do want to mention in the same vein of what we've been talking about is we did have to issue unsporting minor and major warnings to folks for how they were treating other players. So if ever you feel like you're in a situation where your opponent isn't being fair with you, or maybe is what you feel like is bullying or like using unkind language or kind of talking down to you, trying to like quick play you, that was something I got called for a lot, where people with an exerted Diablo would like be reaching with their hand to do the same draw, like when the other person draw, and the other person would like quickly ink and then call judge and be like, I already inked, they can't draw it. They missed their trigger.
My
So,
goodness.
and when you explain the situation to the judge understands what's happening there. And usually we were issuing unsporting minors and unsporting majors to people, depending on the severity. So to clear that up, if you got, and there's 3 levels of unsporting. Here, I have my handy dandy guide that Kevin made for us, Judge Kevin. So shout out to Kevin. So we'd have this like little thing to refer to, because we have to keep track of all of these, like memorize all of these infractions. Will you? I dare you. Look how small we had to make the print. Anyway, like
Yeah,
a
it's
judge
impressive.
job. It's fun. So missed triggers, hidden info errors, like we've got all these things. But one of the things for unsporting conduct, you can get unsporting minor, unsporting major, unsporting severe, cheating, improper match result, and wagering, which were all things that we issued during this challenge, unfortunately. So if you wager, basically you're like, whatever this dice roll is, that's who we're gonna say won this match. Not cool. You will get a DQ. Like, yeah, and it was happening in Top Cut. It was wild.
I think it's
But
also
another
because
thing that
people don't
happened,
know. I think
Yeah,
maybe in
right.
that
And
situation they probably did know, but I
they were warned.
day one people were doing stuff like that toward the end, but a lot of people just didn't know, like including me. I thought that if you and your opponent agreed on a particular match result, no matter what, it didn't really matter as long as there was no coercion and there was only asking like one time. And I think that like the thing I'll say to this is education. Like Sarah can finish first, but people can be better, community members and just communicators by like educating nicely.
yeah. Yeah. Come from curious. And then also, yeah. Because, yeah, I mean, sometimes if someone speaks to me in an authoritative tone, I'll probably believe them because that's just who I am. So I think that's the other thing, too, is you can get kind of into that point. If someone's talking to you in a way where you're like, I guess this is how competitive TCG players talk to each other.
I got a call where
and so,
someone
yeah,
was
knowing
trying to
you're like,
convince their opponent that Bucky had the errata. In effect, and
they're like,
wasn't allowing
this
Bucky to do discards.
that's called manifesting, and that's different. They were
Yeah.
they were trying to create the world they
Yeah,
want.
no.
No, I think,
Yeah, we did have,
and yeah, it can
we
be,
had issues where people were cussing out their opponents and the judges. Like, that's not cool.
which is
Yeah,
crazy.
so that'll get you unsporting.
Yeah, yeah, and they deserve it because it is a game. At the very end of the day, yes, the prizes are real and the outcomes are real and the career aspect of it is all real. But act like how you would want if somebody would just make a Twitter thread or a Twitter video about it or Instagram or TikTok. Would you want that video made? Would you be proud of it? Probably made. Because if so, if you're like, yeah, I told a kid to hurry it up, they'd be like, do you feel good about that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I had to tell a fellow that his mat wasn't approved for the tournament because of its inappropriate stuff on the mat. And I was like, you're either going to flip it over or you're going to replace it with a different mat. You can't have that mat. And he was just, why not? And I was like, I'm going to paint a scenario for you. And that is your match tomorrow with a 7-year-old child. How would you feel with them across from you? And
I know.
these
And
ladies
it's weird having to
here
explain
in
that.
these positions with their anatomy in this state, like, why would you want that? And he was like, oh, fair point. And then homeboy pulls out Steamboat Willie, the Mickey mat. And I was like, you had a Disney mat. Like, why were you even? So, yeah, come correct, y'all.
Yeah, right. Be your best self, or at least 50% of your best self.
Yeah.
Just try.
Well, I think also just
So-
like a lot of the community maybe doesn't know how to be a part of a community like larger, because as we've talked about, a lot of us are like indoor folks. Like even when we go and do outdoor things, we do it with our small group of people. And so sometimes just like, so my moniker is Alex the Queer. It is on my mat. It is on the back of my jersey. I had a competitor who was like, why put the queer? Why not just tell people you're gay every time you have a match with them? And I was like, well, we don't know what the term queer means, clearly. But I had to come at it with like a education standpoint of like, hey, so like yes, this is an identification for me, but also like, here's how this makes up different parts. And the thing was, he was not coming at it, like he wasn't trying to be as bigoted as he came off. he just didn't
Yeah.
understand. And so, like, even when it comes to, like, card calls or, like, I had, an opponent, in the Sunday, competitive constructive who she was super sweet, but she thought that Beast only got the +4 and got to draw a card when there was damage, which is not how that card works. Those are opposites. And so, like, that changed how she would have played, the turn prior. She just didn't, like, understand, and I think that in those moments being able to be like, "Yeah, so, like, here's what this card does, and that's why it's important. Here's an opportunity to read it. Like, we can also call somebody if you want." Goes back to the, like, not just immediately being like, "I'm gonna get you on something," right? Like, I could have been like, "Oh,
Yeah.
judge." Like, that I just don't think that's super helpful because there are times that I misread cards. Like, I'm dyslexic, and sometimes I think
Yeah.
that a card does something, and it doesn't. And that's okay. Like, words are hard.
Or you play for 10 hours, and by the 10th hour, it's a different brain
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
dealing with at that
Yeah.
point. So, nice. You don't I think, like, it's interesting because, I mean, obviously, Twitter is filled with, "Would you let this person take this back? Would you let this?" And the rules are what they are, but, I think everybody's gonna have their own scale of how they believe they should act in a certain scenario, but I think, in general, be nice. Because even if you are like, "I wanna enforce this rule," and you have every right to, it's a competition, yeah, just, pretend it's someone you love or at least tolerate or
Yeah.
like, and you don't want to make them feel bad
Yeah.
because, generally people are not trying to do something shady. And even if they are, what do you gain by being super aggressive? It is fun to yell the word judge. I will say, in defense, that is a fun thing to do. You don't get to do that in many scenarios.
I personally love to hear it.
Yeah, it is. It's fun when you can tell someone really committed, like when you're playing and then someone buys judge, and you're like, whoa. When you're like, you really did it. Whoa. But we were told, we practiced and
Yes, I
everything.
love
So if
that.
anything,
I love that for you guys because I just want to shake the anxiety of it off, right? That part where we have the player meeting in the beginning and everybody practices. Yeah.
yeah,
It's like yelling 4 in golf.
yeah.
Like, literally,
Mhm.
people don't want to yell 4, but they want to yell 4, but you don't know how loud to yell it. Sorry, I've golfed before. And if you are gonna hit somebody, like, that is totally on you, but you have to yell 4, and it's the same panic. Like, it's just like, do I do it now?
I didn't know that word had a purpose. I just thought people were doing it. It's kind of like being like, hi, yeah. I just thought it was kind of like an onomatopoeia for the action of swinging
No.
a
It's
golf
like a
club.
heads up, right?
Yeah, it's like a watch out, you're gonna get nailed with a ball.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Interesting. They should probably say
Well, that's
that.
too
Probably, because if
long.
I'd be,
That's true.
hey, you're about your
300
ninja.
yards away. They needed one thing. I don't know why they chose 4 and not, move, but
Yikes.
yikes.
Aerial assault.
So I know, the meta, we could talk. That could be its own show. This is more feeling. This is feelings. This is vibes. These are soft things. But I will gently touch on the meta. Of the top 64, 30 of them were Emerald Steel. However, Emerald Steel is not in the final 2. I just think that's important to call out. I don't know. I'm not a super meta analysis person, but one thing I will call out is, if you look at the top 64, you'd be like, oh my God, Emerald Steel. I saw so many fun decks, and I would like to take a moment for calling out decks where you're like, I am impressed. I mean, obviously, everybody loved Zach Biffen showing up with a lemon lime and making it a top 64. Dazzle, stunned. That, the internet stopped. But another one I saw, I played against somebody who had Ruby Steel. And it was just every turn, I was like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And then they do it. And I'm like, you did it. So I think that's fun. I think, we talk about the meta. Obviously, the meta is based on statistics. It's based on, math and things working. And so I never want to be like, don't do the meta, because I'd be like saying, like, don't do what's good. But at the same time, I love seeing people be creative. And were there any surprises for you guys in the top, or that you played against, or that were as encouraging to you?
That Baloo Brew from Chris was wild. And watching him play it was a treat.
Was that in the
Oh,
top
yeah.
64?
He almost went undefeated. He was the top 2, and that's when he got knocked out. Before that, he won every match.
Is that the second place
Yes.
person? Okay, so we're looking at the Amber Steel deck by Chris
Yes.
Croy. Oh, yeah, because there was a double Chris, double Steel Song. I forgot in the final 4. Steel Song, you beautiful deck, you. Whenever I see someone play Steel Song, I'm like, that's a real one. This is a real cool person. On the
Yeah,
other
they
side,
are.
anytime I see people play Sapphire, I'm like, you're a magician. What are you doing over there? I wouldn't even call a judge. I don't know what they're doing. Anyway, that's just a personal
I
beef
don't know
because
how they
I
have
played
those
against
for
someone with
ink. I don't
steel.
get it.
He had 22 ink, and I was like, probably. I don't know. I'm not smart enough to know if he's cheating. How could anyone know?
You don't know how many times they've inked for the turn, like, oh, I guess, to ink away.
Yeah. So that's why the last segment of this show is going to be, why should we ban Sapphire? Everyone, let's start. No, but I
No.
think
Incorrect.
do you get called on Sapphire because people are just doing like one jump, do this, and they're okay, well, because they're dazzled is probably why they're like, I don't know what they
Yeah.
did, so how could I ever call a judge?
The only
You
thing
can't
I
call
get
a
called
judge
for
if you're like-
Sapphire is people are confused about ward or resist.
Yeah.
They're like,
Yeah. That's
this
true.
person took damage, but I had a Cogsworth. That was resist.
Yeah. Like, well, why does
Hey, Raquel.
Cogsworth exist? Yeah.
Great question. That's something that people don't talk about. I know, Raquel, you were about to say, I mean, I'm assuming you're saying that people are inking, I think, just to intimidate you at that point, correct? Is that...
I agree. Yes, that's exactly what I
Yeah,
was
they're
gonna
like,
say.
oh, I'm just going to ink Greatstone Dragon. I'm like, you don't need any more
I've
ink,
been
okay?
inked to submission, so
What are you going to do with 30
What if you
ink,
have 2
okay?
dimes out, so you need 4 for
That's
that,
true.
and you have the Tamatoa, that's another 8, so you can double
true.
Tamatoa your dime. You need the ink. You would need as much as you can get.
I did. Yes, watching someone go up by 10 lower in a turn, you're like, I see now what you were ramping to. I still
Yeah.
don't trust you. And it's nothing personal. It's your cards. I don't trust them. But yeah, I think it was encouraging. It's funny that, like, Ruby Amethyst is that girl. She's always going to be there. Girl, I don't know the gender of that deck, but I mean, it is that deck that is like, I call it the Honda Civic, which I'm very proud of because it's always just driving. It's got good resale value. It's got a plan and it's sticking to it and it's not afraid of anyone else. And Seal Song's kind of like that. Seal Song requires more brain power, but I just think I play Ruby Amethyst because it's just going to do exactly what it says on the label.
If it's a Civic, then Steel Song would be the accurate version, right? Just like the kind of bump it up a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then,
But
yeah, Bucky
it would
is.
have to be a shift. The steel saw.
Yeah.
is
Yes.
harder.
It's the shift
It's
version.
harder to
Yeah.
operate.
It's a Honda Civic manual.
Yeah.
And people are like, it's fast, but I don't know how to use it.
Yeah.
But yeah, were there any other decks that you guys saw, Alex or Kim, that you were like, oh,
Not in the main
I-
event. In the side event on the Sunday, the person I was playing who wasn't sure what the beast did, she was playing a blue-yellow deck that it was like hyper aggro, but also had McDuck manners, which was spicy. She played the caterpillar, which
I love that.
Sarah wants to be a really good card. I will tell you,
Quest 4/3.
It is a good card.
yes. Well, I will tell you,
I agree.
as somebody who was playing green steel in that particular moment, I was like, oh no, I can either get rid of your McDuck Manor in this moment, or I can get rid of your caterpillar. So that means I got to get rid of McDuck and hope that you swing with the caterpillar. And so, like, her whole goal with this deck, right, is just to race. Like, she's just running, which is cool. But I don't want her to do that. So when she was like, second caterpillar, I was like, can we not do that?
I already dealt with it. And
But yeah, that one was kind of cool just because like it worked better than I thought it would in some situations. She was also surprised because my matchup was the worst for her. She got to 16 and then I was like, you can't put anything else on the board. I'm sorry. But yeah,
that'll be the end for you, unfortunately.
it was really cool because she said that she just didn't want to play something that people were expecting. And I agree. People are not expecting Caterpillar on turn 5. So,
Yeah.
Um,
No.
Unless you're Sarah, who's hoping for it. Sarah's waiting for every turn 5. She's like, are they going to do it?
Playing a Sapphire player, I'm like,
When it
I
doesn't
know they've
happen,
got
you're like-
Caterpillar in there for sure.
I'm surprised there are not more McDuck Manors around. Like, that card is such a problem. Like, when you lay down, you're like, houses. And you're like, stop, please. So the fact that Rise of the Titans and, Maui exist maybe makes people want to do it.
Avalanche.
Yeah,
I love me some Avalanche.
but,
Yeah.
there is no feeling better than somebody ruining your plans and then putting down 2 Queen Castles. And they're like, who
Yeah,
are
I know.
you? And I'm like, the devil. But That's how you feel when you put down with 2 queens castles. It's a good feeling. It's a bad
Yes,
feeling.
it is. It's
for
a
the other
bad
person.
feeling for the other person. Can confirm.
It's probably the
Yeah.
same feeling we get when there's 2 Buckies on the board. Like,
Yeah.
oh god,
No one needs 2
no,
Buckies.
please stop.
There should be only 1 Bucky. There's already enough. That's enough Buckies. We don't need
Well,
2.
one can sing songs, so he can sing
Exactly.
Sudden Chill.
Exactly. That's
And
what I
the
use
other
my
one just
Bucky
stays on exert. Yes. Yeah.
Same.
Sing the song, Bucky. Are we okay? We didn't talk about that. Were there any Emerald Steel players on this call?
Yeah.
I only have 3.
Yeah. I took it to my set champs.
Honestly, you guys, you 3
Same.
are the bravest because you have to deal with people giving you Bucky
Oh,
discourse.
so much.
And that makes you the bravest
Yeah.
I love
soldier.
it. I live for it. No matter you get.
That people are
Emma.
like, hey,
It's fueling.
well, if you're winning, Bucky needs to be banned. If you're losing, why are they even banning Bucky? So I feel like that's the
Yeah.
only 2
If you're
options.
good, you
is-
can beat Bucky.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only 1-1 competition.
Yeah. It honestly
Yep.
is a pretty easy deck to beat, I think. I think it's just very frustrating to play against. And like I don't
Yes.
disagree. I really don't. I was gonna take Steel Song to the DLC, even though I've played Bucky discard for the majority of this set. And honestly, it's just because like it's not the most fun deck to pilot. Like I enjoy playing the mirrors, which makes me like 1 in a million people. I really love the mirrors. All I
Yeah.
wanted to play at the DLC was the mirrors, and I didn't get to play mirrors. I was like, what's happening? But like truthfully, its matchups aren't great. Like red blue can beat it 75% of the time if they know how to play it. Red purple, if you know the plan on what to do when you're on the draw versus when you're on the play, it's a very easy deck to beat. It's just intimidating, I think. And I also
Well, yeah.
it's not fun to play cards with no cards. So it's reductive.
Yeah, it's a deck that really like just by playing it, you're most decks heat up, but Bucky is just like the Emerald Steel discard is just immediately a problem. And if you can survive that problem, then you can survive anything. But it's just the fact that the game starts as a problem. I think that is the unique nature
Yeah.
of that deck. Is like, oh, you're gonna ruin my life immediately.
Turn 2.
not just like wait to cook. Yeah, and they're like, it's happening, and I'm like, of course it is. Thank
I'm
you.
super diabolical because
I-
I put Chief Bogo and Giant Tinkerbells in there as well. So the thing
Good,
about Bogo is
good.
you take
So you
1
have to-
damage whenever I play a Floodborn. So,
So you're just like
Yeah.
hurting them. You're like,
oh yeah,
ow, you're poking them and then taking
Take
a
your
card,
card,
and then hitting them in the forehead
take
with
1
the card.
damage. I'll play Tinkerbell. You'll take another damage. And she's Floodborn.
Why
and
not?
She's Floodborn.
She's
If
the
I
best
can
card.
shift her, and
She's
then
the
you're
pretty.
taking your damage plus the splash damage plus the 1 damage and getting rid of all your cards. It's a good time for me. I'm a control player. What can I say?
Chief Bogo bad.
I know. Yeah, I will. Cheap All right. Sure. I think so. I've never played against him, but I've already heard enough, and I made up my mind. He's bad. And I think Emerald Steel, I don't think it's going anywhere. That deck is still incredibly viable. I think it's going to morph. I don't think it's like they're killing the deck. They did publicly execute the squirrel, which is sad, but other than that,
Harsh.
they did. Yeah, one of it would have been enough, but they're like, it felt
Oh no.
it felt personal.
Oh no. I feel
It did.
like
I
okay.
felt
hear me
like
out.
it. Yeah.
He is on Kronk's shoulder in the art. Okay, in the card art, and I just feel like we can't ban him when we haven't seen the rest of Kronk in his scout outfit that goes along with this card. So I just want Kronk and Bucky to be able to
He's
hang out on the
banned.
same board together later. So I'm okay with Bucky getting nerfed, I guess is the best way to say it.
Nerf-
Like
nerf was-
I don't mind it. I can I'm a good enough player that I can like get on with like losing 1 card. I'm cool. But I am very excited to see Kronk in his little squirrel outfit one day with Bucky next to him and Bucky getting some redemption, hopefully.
Was it an emotional time for you, Raquel?
I thought there needed to be something done with Bucky. Like, I'm not one of those
Yeah.
Emerald Steel players that, like, ooh, no, like, he wasn't a problem. Yes, it was a problem in the fun aspect. Like, you could see the soul of someone leaving their body as you played. Like, you know what's coming. I'm going to shift to Diablo and to play my Aladdin at the same time, and you're going to lose the rest of your hand. I'm also going to sing Sudden Chill with Bucky and Diablo, who this game's over.
Yeah.
So, like, yes, I understand the hate that Bucky gets.
Yeah.
But I did feel like they really took Bucky out into the woods, and we're like,
They did.
we can't have you come back anymore.
Yeah, it was very personal. It was very, it was a day the earth stood still as we all looked at the scroll and said,
But
This is a funny story. I heard from like the Lines and Gave devs that people were bringing their Bucky decks to play against them as a like, look what you did.
Put them through it.
spiteful.
Wow.
I did hear
That's
that.
hilarious.
Yeah, I was hearing that people were like, yeah, I'm gonna bring my Bucky deck so that they can, like, suffer once.
that's
I'm
good.
like,
That's
oh
a
my
spirit.
gosh.
I
was
think
like,
we all need to bring that
alright.
energy. I do. I run a league, and I think I'm going to have like a eulogy, or what's that, a wake for Bucky on the last league eligible night. Be like, all right, everybody, we're gonna stand up and say something that we really liked about him. Only nice things. Maybe a nice casserole. So, well, I know we've been chatting for a while, and I don't know. We really chat forever, but I'll release you to eat your dinners or go to the things you do. We're all over the country, so who knows what you're going to do after this. But I want to thank you for taking time to chat with me, offering your insights. I think this is such a unique game because, yeah, like I said at the beginning, everybody has their own way to enjoy it. Everybody had their own weekend. And I love hearing about it. And I love that you guys spent your time with me. So before I say goodbye, it's going to go around one more time. I know we kind of at the beginning, but just one last little plug. Anything you're working on, anything where you're like, come find me over here. I'll start with you, Raquel. Where would people want to follow your time on Lorcana? Where would they find
Yeah,
you?
so I'm on Discord under Lycos14. I'm also on X. I use the at Sunflower or at Sun Illumineers handle because that's our team handle. I don't actually have a personal X account. And then you can find us on YouTube as well under Sunflower Lumineers. I try to put videos up there. My teammates do most of the content on their gameplay. So if there's any content people are looking for, just shoot me an email and we'll definitely try to get that. But that's where you can find me. And obviously I'll be at Vegas, so you can come say hi if you're up there as well.
Yeah, do it. And start with, how do you pronounce your name? Speaking of which, Alex. Where can people
I
find
pronounce my
all of
name
you?
Alex, with a Y, which
Perfect.
confuses everyone, especially when you don't register with a last name. Anyway, you can find me on Instagram, Discord, Twitter. I don't call it X. Under Alex the Queer. I will have a podcast coming soon. Don't want to spoil too many details about it, but it's going to be about transgender diverse experience mixed with the intersection of like neurospiciness. So, in specifically Lorcana. So yeah, you can follow me there.
I love that. That is an important thing because I said my husband's a psychiatrist. I'm like, why are there so many people with ADHD and autism hanging out in this room? And he's like, I don't think anyone studied that. I was like, well, they should, because look around. Like, but I think it's something that's important to talk about because obviously we all have our experiences, and the more we learn about each other, the more we understand each other. So I love that, and I can't wait to hear more. And I will blast out whatever it's called
Cool.
whenever you do that. All right, Sarah, where can people find you other than yelling the word judge loudly?
So if you're not yelling judge, if that's not convenient, you can find me on Instagram at Lorcana Librarian, and I do some of the Love to Lore Instagram. And you can also find me on Twitter as Illum Librarian, because Lorcana Librarian was too long for them as a handle. I don't get what's going on over there. I just started, so bear with me. It's a baby. But yeah, I love to hang out on Instagram, and I am also on Discord as Lorcana Librarian. So either way, you can find me there. And yes, I have a podcast coming out very soon with my co-host Caroline. We're going to be the Lore Library, so that's going to be very exciting. And I may or may not know about what Alex is talking about, so maybe I might be on that one too. See me there. Okay. Anyway, love you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Well, no, that's very exciting. I just want to listen to everyone shout. That's my favorite thing. It's just like I get to talk to you, but not really, at any time I want. So, and then Kim, where can people find you?
All right, I'm enchanted_Kim on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Discord. I help run the Love to Lore social media, and you can see that a lot of my content is more the fun, non-competitive side of Lorcana, so a lot of fashion videos, Disney bounding, community building, and hopefully you'll be seeing all my vlogs from all the events I go to for Lorcana.
I love that. I tried to vlog and I dropped my camera, so there is no vlog. It is broken, so I will be contacting customer service. But I can't wait to see your vlog. And to anyone listening, join. I think if you feel like there's a community and you're like on the outside looking in, definitely join the Love to Lore Discord. Jump in. You have a community. They're here. They're waiting for you. And we love you. And we can't wait to talk to you. I'm going to speak for everyone.
Yeah.
But that community, whenever I'm feeling down, I'll just say, if you'll be like, I feel this way. And there's always somebody else like, me too. And you're like, wow, the world, so small, so big, so small. So definitely, you're in this community. You're not on this podcast right now, but you're a part of it. So we're happy that you're there. So thank you, everyone, the four of you for joining. And thank you to the listeners for joining me for another episode. As you know, there is always room for more at the end. So if there's anything you want to hear me talk about, please feel free to email me at contact@thelorekeepersin.com or reach out to me at Twitter or Instagram on the socials linked in the description. As always, thank you for hanging out with me today. We are always happy to have you stop by the Lore Keepers Inn wherever your quest may take you. And if you don't know where to find us, just take the second star to the right exit and head straight on till morning.